Jake Morrison walked through the long hallway of Kepler Prime Station. His black shoes made soft sounds on the metal floor. The walls around him glowed with a blue light that came from alien technology he did not understand. He had been to this place many times before, but today felt different. Today he carried news that could change everything. The human ambassador was 52 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 20 years talking to alien races from across the galaxy. Most of the time, these talks were about trade, deals, or small problems between planets. But today was not like most days. Behind him walked Dr. Lisa Harper. She was younger than Jake, with brown hair tied back and glasses that she pushed up her nose when she was nervous. She did this a lot today. In her hands, she carried a small device that held all the information they had gathered about Earth. All the good things humanity had done. All the reasons why Earth should be left alone. They reached the big doors that led to the council chamber. The doors were 3 times taller than Jake and made from some kind of white stone that seemed to glow from inside. 2 guards stood beside the doors. They were not human. One looked like a giant cat walking on 2 legs. The other had blue skin and 4 arms. Both nodded to Jake as he approached. "The council is ready for you, Ambassador Morrison," said the blue-skinned guard in perfect English. Jake took a deep breath and walked through the doors. The council chamber was huge. It was round and went up so high that Jake could barely see the ceiling. Seats were built into the walls in circles, going up and up like steps. In each seat sat a different kind of alien being. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Jake still felt surprised when he saw them, even after all these years. There were the Valdari, who looked like tall, thin people with silver skin and large eyes. They were peaceful and kind, and had always been friends to humans. There were the Corthex, who had bodies like rocks and spoke in voices that sounded like thunder. There were the Zephyrians, who floated in the air and looked like clouds with faces. And there were the NIGMA. The NIGMA sat in the largest section of the chamber. There were 12 of them, all looking exactly the same. They had bodies like giant bugs, with hard shells that looked like black glass. Their heads were long, and had 4 eyes that glowed red. They had 6 arms each and hands that ended in sharp points. When they moved, their shells made clicking sounds that echoed through the chamber. At the center of the NIGMA group sat their leader, Hive Commander Zexthul. He was bigger than the others, and his shell was decorated with silver lines that showed his rank. When he looked at Jake, his red eyes seemed to burn with anger and hate. Jake walked to the center of the chamber. There was a small platform there where speakers stood. He stepped onto it and looked around at all the alien faces watching him. His heart beat fast, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Members of the Galactic Council," Jake began. "I come before you today with an urgent warning. We have learned that the NIGMA Empire plans to invade Earth. This invasion will begin in 3 months. A sound went through the chamber like wind. Some aliens whispered to each other. Others sat forward. In their seats, the NIGMA did not move at all. Jake continued. Earth is my home. It is the home of 8 billion human beings who have never done anything to harm the NIGMA Empire. We ask the Council to prevent this invasion." Hive Commander Zexthul stood up, slowly. When he spoke, his voice sounded like glass breaking. "The human speaks of things he does not understand. Earth sits outside the protected zone. The NIGMA Empire has the right to claim any world in that region. This is galactic law." "But Earth is inhabited," Jake said. "There are laws about attacking worlds with intelligent life." "Intelligence?" Zexthul made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans are barely more than animals. You have no real technology. You have no space fleet. You fight wars among yourselves like wild beasts. The galaxy will be better when the NIGMA Empire brings order to your chaotic world." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Commander Zexthul, you do not know humans as well as you think you do. Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have made mistakes. But we have also survived things that would destroy other races. We have lived through ice ages that covered our world in snow for thousands of years. We have survived diseases that killed millions of us. We have faced disasters that should have ended our species, and we are still here. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many council members as he could. Humans are not weak because we fight among ourselves. We are strong because we learn from our fights. Every war has taught us something new. Every disaster has made us better at surviving the next one. Dr. Harper stepped forward and activated her device. Images appeared in the air above the platform, showing Earth and human achievements. There were pictures of cities, hospitals, schools, and art. There were images of humans helping each other during floods and earthquakes. There were pictures of the medicines humans had created and the technologies they had built. "Look at what we have accomplished," Lisa said. "In just the last 100 years, we have learned to fly, to cure diseases that once killed millions, and to communicate across our entire planet instantly. We have created art and music and stories that bring joy to people everywhere. We have learned to work together despite our differences." Zexthul clicked his arms together in a gesture of dismissal. "Pretty pictures cannot hide the truth. Humans are primitives. You have no weapons that can challenge the NIGMA fleet. You have no defenses that can stop our army. Your planet will fall in days, and your people will serve the Empire or die." Jake looked directly at the NIGMA commander. His voice was quiet, but everyone in the chamber could hear him clearly. "Commander, I am going to tell you something, and I want you to remember these words. Earth may look defenseless to you. Humans may seem weak compared to your empire, but we have something you do not understand. We have the ability to survive anything. We have the will to fight for what we love. And we have learned over thousands of years that the biggest mistake anyone can make is to think that humans will give up without a fight." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I am warning you now, as one intelligent being to another. Do not attack Earth. Do not make the mistake of thinking that humans are easy prey. Because if you do, you will learn why we have survived when other species have fallen. You will learn why Earth is still free after billions of years. And you will learn why no one who has tried to conquer humanity has ever succeeded." Zexthul's red eyes blazed brighter. "Are you threatening the NIGMA Empire, human?" "I am not threatening you," Jake said calmly. "I am warning you. There is a difference. A threat is what you make when you want someone to be afraid. A warning is what you give when you want someone to be wise." The NIGMA commander stood silent for a long moment. Then he turned to address the entire council. "The NIGMA Empire has made its decision. In 3 months we will claim the world called Earth. Any species that interferes will be considered an enemy of the Empire." With that, Zexthul and all 12 NIGMA representatives left the chamber. Their footsteps echoed like drums as they walked away. Jake watched them go. Then he turned back to the remaining council members. "You have heard my warning," he said. "You have heard their response. I hope, for all our sakes, that they choose wisdom over pride. Because if they do not, the galaxy will never be the same again." 3 months had passed since Jake Morrison spoke to the Galactic Council. On Earth, things looked normal from space. Cities still glowed with lights at night. Cars moved on roads. Planes flew through the sky. But underneath the surface, humanity was getting ready for war. General Pete Collins stood in a room deep under the mountains of Colorado. The room was carved out of solid rock and filled with computers and screens. Men and women in military uniforms worked at desks, talking quietly, into headsets and typing on keyboards. This was the new command center for Earth's defense, built in secret over the past year. Pete was 60 years old and had gray hair cut short. He had fought in 3 wars during his career, but none like this one. Never before had he prepared to fight aliens who came from the stars. Never before had the entire human race depended on his plans. "Show me the latest reports," Pete said to Colonel Amy Foster, his second in command. Amy was a tall woman with red hair and sharp green eyes. She had been working with Pete for 10 years and knew how to organize big military operations. She touched. A screen and numbers appeared on the wall. "All regions are ready, General," Amy said. "We have hidden supply points in every major city. Underground tunnels connect the important buildings. Civilians have been quietly moved away from target areas. Most people think it's just emergency drills. Pete nodded. One of the hardest parts of preparing for the invasion was keeping it secret from Earth's own people. They could not cause panic, but they also could not leave people unprepared, so they had created a cover story about natural disasters and emergency training. In another part of the mountain, Dr. Alex Chen worked in a laboratory filled with strange machines. Alex was 35 years old and one of the smartest people on Earth. He had black hair that was always messy because he forgot to comb it, and he wore thick glasses that made his eyes look big. Alex held a small device in his hands. It looked like a normal radio, but it was much more than that. For the past 3 months, he had been studying every piece of information they had about the NIGMA Empire. He learned about their weapons, their ships, and most importantly, their weakness. The NIGMA all think as one mind, Alex said to his assistant, Dr. Karen White. They share thoughts like a computer network. That makes them strong, but it also makes them weak. If we can disrupt their connection, they become confused. Karen was a young woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. She was new to this kind of work, but she learned quickly. How do we disrupt it? She asked. Alex smiled and held up the device. This creates a special signal that scrambles their brainwaves. When they try to share thoughts, all they get is noise. It's like trying to talk on a phone with static. Meanwhile, in a training camp in the desert of Nevada, Captain Maria Santos taught a group of soldiers how to fight in the city. Maria was a small woman with dark skin and black hair tied in a ponytail. She had grown up in the streets of Los Angeles and knew how to fight in places with lots of buildings and narrow spaces. The NIGMA are used to fighting in open battles, Maria told her students. They line up their armies and attack straight ahead, but we will not fight them that way. We will hide in buildings. We will attack from underground. We will hit them and then disappear before they can hit us back. The soldiers listened carefully. They came from all over the world and spoke many different languages, but they all understood that this was the most important training of their lives. One of the soldiers, Sergeant Bob Kelly, raised his hand. He was a big man from Texas with a thick accent. Captain, what if they have weapons we can't fight against? Maria smiled. Bob, humans have been fighting with less than their enemies for thousands of years. We beat the British with muskets when they had cannons. We beat tanks with bottles full of gasoline. We always find a way. In a workshop in Detroit, engineer Danny Rodriguez worked on machines that looked like normal city equipment. Danny was 40 years old with brown skin and a beard. He had worked in factories all his life and knew how to build things that worked well and lasted long. This looks like a streetlight, Danny explained to his team. But inside it has cameras, sensors, and a weapon system. When the NIGMA land in our cities, they will think these are just normal lights. Then we will surprise them. His team worked day and night to build thousands of these hidden weapons. They disguised them as mailboxes, park benches, and even garbage cans. Soon, every city on Earth would be full of surprises for the invaders. Back in the command center, Pete received a message from space. It came from Captain Tony Blake, who was commanding a small group of human ships far from Earth. Tony was 38 years old and had been a pilot for 15 years. He was brave and smart, and Pete trusted him to watch for the NIGMA fleet. General Collins, Tony's voice came through the radio. We have spotted the NIGMA ships. They are still far away, but they are coming. I count 600 vessels of different sizes. The biggest ones are the size of cities. Pete felt his stomach tighten. 600 ships was more than they had expected. But he did not let his worry show on his face. The people around him needed to see confidence. Tony, stay hidden and keep watching, Pete said. Report any changes immediately. Yes, sir, Tony replied. General, there's something else. I'm seeing ships from other alien races following the NIGMA fleet. I think some of them might be coming to help us. This was good news. Jake Morrison had been working for months to find allies among the alien races. Some of them remembered times when the NIGMA had attacked their worlds. They wanted revenge, but they had been too weak to fight alone. Now they saw a chance to stand together. Dr. Lisa Harper worked in the capital city, talking to world leaders and keeping them calm. Lisa had returned from the Galactic Council and spent her time making sure all the countries on Earth worked together. This was not easy, because countries often disagreed about many things. The NIGMA think we are weak because we fight among ourselves, Lisa told the President of the United States during a video call, but our differences make us strong. The NIGMA all think the same way, so they cannot adapt when something unexpected happens. We think in many different ways, so we can solve problems they cannot even see. In cities around the world, normal people went about their daily lives without knowing that humanity was preparing for the biggest fight in its history. Children played in parks, adults went to work, families ate dinner together, but in secret, their governments had given them all training they did not know they had received. Every fire drill in schools had taught children how to move quickly and quietly. Every emergency broadcast on television had taught people how to recognize warning signals. Every community meeting had taught neighbors how to work together in a crisis. The NIGMA Empire thought they would find a planet of helpless victims. Instead, they would find 8 billion humans who knew how to survive, how to fight, and how to win. As the sun set on Earth, Pete Collins stood on a balcony outside the command center and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, 600 enemy ships were coming to destroy his world. But he was not afraid. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They had turned every challenge into a chance to become stronger. Let them come, Pete said quietly to himself. We are ready. The NIGMA fleet arrived at Earth like a dark cloud blocking out the sun. 600 ships of different sizes filled the space around the planet. The smallest ships were as big as football stadiums. The largest ones were like floating cities, with towers and weapons that glowed with red light. On the command ship, Hive Commander Zexthal stood before a giant window looking down at Earth. The planet looked blue and green and peaceful from space. White clouds moved slowly across the surface. It looked like an easy target. Begin the surrender broadcast, Zexthal ordered his crew. A voice boomed across Earth in every language humans spoke. The message was the same everywhere. People of Earth, you are now under the control of the NIGMA Empire. Surrender immediately and you will be allowed to live as servants. Resist and you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to respond. Then Earth went silent. Every radio station stopped broadcasting. Every television channel went dark. The internet stopped working. Even the lights in most cities turned off. From space, it looked like the planet had died. Captain Tony Blake watched from his hidden ship far away from Earth. He spoke quietly into his radio to General Pete Collins. The NIGMA are scanning the planet, General. They think everyone is hiding, in fear. Good, Pete replied from his command center deep under the mountains. Let them think that. How long until they land? Their dropships are launching now, Tony said. I count over 200 landing craft heading for the surface. NIGMA dropships were big metal boxes with no windows. They fell through Earth's atmosphere like burning rocks, leaving trails of fire in the sky. They landed in fields outside major cities all over the world. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Cairo, Sydney. Everywhere the NIGMA thought humans would be easy to capture. The ships opened like flowers and NIGMA soldiers poured out. They moved in perfect lines, all thinking the same thoughts, all following the same plan. Each soldier wore black armor that covered their bug-like bodies. They carried weapons that shot bright red beams. For 6 hours, the NIGMA soldiers marched toward the cities. They expected to find crowds of scared humans begging for mercy. Instead, they found empty streets. No cars moved on the roads. No people walked on sidewalks. Even the animals seemed to have disappeared. Status report, Zexthal demanded from his ship. All landing zones secured, reported Ground Commander Vexmore from the surface. The humans appear to have abandoned their cities. We are moving to occupy the population centers now. The NIGMA army entered New York City first. Their metal feet rang on empty streets as they marched between tall buildings. Windows stared down at them like dark eyes. Nothing moved except pieces of paper blown by the wind. They reached Times Square, the heart of the city where millions of people usually walked every day. It was completely empty. The big screens that normally showed advertisements were all black. The shops were closed and locked. Humans are cowards, said squad leader Nixtal to his soldiers. They run and hide like frightened animals. That was When the lights came on, every screen in Times Square lit up at once, showing the same message. Welcome to Earth. You should have listened to our warning. Before the NIGMA soldiers could react, the street under their feet exploded upward. Captain Maria Santos and 50 human fighters burst out of hidden tunnels they had dug under the city. They wore dark clothes and moved like shadows between the buildings. Maria carried a weapon that Dr. Alex Chen had built. It looked like a normal gun, but when she fired it, the NIGMA soldiers' armor stopped working. Their shields failed. Their communication systems went silent. Suddenly, they could not hear each other's thoughts. Now! Maria shouted. Humans appeared from everywhere. They came out of subway entrances, dropped from fire escapes, and emerged from behind cars. They had been hiding in the city all along, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The NIGMA soldiers tried to fight back, but they were confused. They had never fought an enemy that could cut off their shared thoughts. Without their hive mind connection, they did not know what to do. In London, the same thing happened. NIGMA forces entered the city expecting to find it empty. Instead, they found traps everywhere. Sergeant Jim Parker led a team of fighters who had turned the city's underground train system into a maze of ambush points. Every time the NIGMA soldiers thought they had found the humans, the fighters disappeared into tunnels and attacked from a different direction. In Tokyo, engineer Kenji Nakamura had worked with Danny Rodriguez to turn the city's robot systems against the invaders. Traffic lights shot electric bolts. Vending machines launched small explosives. Even the toilets in public restrooms became weapons. Back on the command ship, Zexthal received reports from all over Earth. Every landing force was under attack. The humans were not running away. They were fighting back with weapons and tactics the NIGMA had never seen before. How is this possible? Zexthal demanded. Our intelligence said humans had no advanced weapons. His science officer, a NIGMA called Dexcool, studied the reports. Commander, the humans are using our own technology against us. Somehow they have learned to disrupt our neural networks. Our soldiers cannot communicate with each other or with us. Dr. Alex Chen's signal jammers were working perfectly. Every NIGMA soldier on Earth was now fighting alone, cut off from the hive mind that had made them strong. They tried to follow their training, but their training was based on working together as one mind. In Washington, D.C., Lieutenant Frank Miller led a team that captured an entire NIGMA squad. They used nets and ropes instead of weapons, surrounding the confused aliens and tying them up before they could react. These guys are like robots without a computer, Frank said into his radio. Once you cut off their connection, they don't know what to do. General Pete Collins listened to reports from all over the world. Every human team was reporting success. The NIGMA invasion was falling apart just hours after it began. Phase 2, Pete ordered. All across Earth, humans began the second part of their plan. Instead of just defending their cities, they started hunting the NIGMA forces. Small teams of fighters moved through the countryside, attacking supply lines and communication posts. Dr. Karen White activated a network of hidden satellites that Dr. Alex Chen had built. These satellites sent out signals that made the NIGMA ships in space lose contact with their forces on the ground. Captain Tony Blake led his small fleet of ships in hit-and-run attacks on the NIGMA vessels. They would appear suddenly, fire their weapons, and disappear before the enemy could shoot back. On the surface, Maria Santos coordinated with teams in other cities. Remember, she told them over the radio, we don't fight them like they expect. We are not an army. We are hunters. They came to our world thinking we were prey. Now they will learn who the real predators are. The first day of the NIGMA invasion became the first day of their defeat. By nightfall, most of the alien forces on Earth were either captured, destroyed, or hiding in fear. Zexthal stood in his command room, staring at reports he could not believe. In one day, the mighty NIGMA Empire had lost more soldiers than in their last 10 conquests combined. Prepare to retreat, he ordered his crew, but it was too late. Human ships appeared around the NIGMA fleet like wolves surrounding a herd of sheep. Jake Morrison's diplomatic work had paid off. Alien allies from across the galaxy had come to help Earth fight the Empire that had bullied them for so long. The invasion was over. Now the real war would begin. 2 weeks had passed since the NIGMA fleet arrived at Earth. What should have been a quick victory had become a nightmare for the alien empire. Every day brought new losses. Every hour brought new reports of their soldiers disappearing or being captured. Commander Tony Blake floated in his small fighter ship high above Earth's atmosphere. Through his window, he could see the massive NIGMA fleet trying to reorganize. Their ships moved in confused patterns like ants whose nest had been disturbed. Eagle 1 to ground control, Tony spoke into his radio. I can see them launching, more dropships. Looks like they're trying another landing. General Pete Collins's voice came back from the command center. Copy that, Tony. Dr. Chen's teams are ready for them. Let's give our visitors another warm welcome. The new NIGMA dropships were different from the first ones. These were smaller and faster, designed to avoid the traps that had caught the earlier invasion force. But the humans had been watching and learning too. Dr. Alex Chen stood in his underground laboratory, surrounded by screens and machines. His hair was even messier than usual and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. For 2 weeks he had been working without rest to stay ahead of the NIGMA technology. They've changed their landing strategy, Alex said to Dr. Karen White. But I've changed our defense strategy too. He pressed a button, and all across Earth, hidden weapons came to life. These were not the obvious traps from the first invasion. These were invisible signals that attacked the NIGMA ship's computers while they flew through the atmosphere. The dropships began to spin out of control. Some crashed into the ocean. Others landed in the wrong places far from their targets. The few that made it to the ground found themselves surrounded by human fighters who had been waiting for hours. Captain Maria Santos led one of these ambush teams outside Los Angeles. She watched through binoculars as a NIGMA dropship landed in the desert half a mile away. Remember the plan, she told her fighters. We don't want to destroy them. We want to capture them and their equipment. The NIGMA soldiers that came out of the ship were different too. Instead of marching in straight lines, they moved carefully and watched for traps. They had learned from their earlier defeats. But humans learn faster. Maria's team used new tactics that Dr. Lisa Harper had developed by studying animal behavior. Instead of attacking like an army, they moved like a pack of wolves. They surrounded the NIGMA force slowly, staying hidden until the aliens were cut off from escape. When the trap was ready, Maria gave the signal. Her fighters did not charge forward shooting weapons. Instead, they used Dr. Alex Chen's sonic devices to create sounds that hurt the NIGMA soldiers' sensitive hearing. The aliens dropped their weapons and fell to their knees, holding their heads in pain. Target secured. Maria reported to General Collins. We've got 23 prisoners and a full load of their equipment for Dr. Chen to study. Similar scenes played out around the world. In every battle, humans showed new abilities that surprised the NIGMA forces. In Brazil, Captain Roberto Silva's team used the jungle itself as a weapon, training monkeys to carry small explosives to NIGMA positions. In Russia, Major Ivan Petrov turned the winter cold into an ally, using ice and snow to trap alien vehicles. But the biggest changes were happening in space. Captain Tony Blake had been given command of a small fleet of human ships that had been built in secret over the past year. These ships did not look like the massive NIGMA vessels. They were small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. Remember, Tony told his pilots over the radio, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to win a smart fight. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and get out before they can hit back. The human ships attacked like a swarm of angry bees. They would appear suddenly from behind asteroids or out of the shadow of Earth's moon, fire their weapons at NIGMA supply ships, and disappear before the enemy could respond. Each attack was small, but together they were destroying the NIGMA fleet's ability to continue the war. Without supplies, the massive alien ships could not repair their damage or replace their lost soldiers. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the human space forces from a hidden base on the far side of the moon. She was 50 years old with gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She had spent her career in Earth's small space navy, never imagining she would one day command a battle against aliens. Status report, Kate asked her communications officer. Lieutenant Mike Davis looked at his screens. The NIGMA fleet has lost 30% of their support ships. Their main battle cruisers are running out of fuel and ammunition. Some of their smaller vessels are trying to leave the solar system. Don't let them, Kate ordered. If even one ship escapes, they'll bring back reinforcements. This ends here. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in history. The NIGMA fleet tried to use their size and firepower to crush the smaller human ships. But size meant nothing when the enemy refused to fight a traditional battle. Tony Blake led his fighters in a dance around the massive alien vessels. They flew between the enemy ships, using their own size against them. When the NIGMA ships tried to shoot at the humans, they hit each other instead. "This is like fighting elephants with mosquitoes," Tony said to his wingman, Captain Sarah Kim. "They're too big and slow to catch us, but we can sting them to death." On Earth, the war was also changing. The NIGMA soldiers who were still fighting had become desperate. They no longer tried to capture cities or follow their original invasion plan. Now they just tried to survive. But surviving on Earth had become almost impossible for them. Every human they met was a potential enemy. Every building could hide a trap. Every piece of technology might be turned against them. Sergeant Bob Kelly, the big man from Texas, led a team of fighters in the ruins of Dallas. They hunted NIGMA. Soldiers through the empty streets like cowboys tracking wild animals. "These bugs thought they could come to our world and push us around," Bob said to his team. "Now they're learning what happens when you mess with Earth." The psychological effect on the NIGMA forces was devastating. They had been trained to think as one mind, to always know what their fellow soldiers were thinking and planning. But Dr. Alex Chen's jamming devices had cut off that connection. Now each NIGMA soldier was alone with his own fears. Fear was something the NIGMA Empire had never dealt with before. In their society, individual fear was impossible, because the hive mind shared all emotions among the group. But now, for the first time in their history, NIGMA soldiers were experiencing terror as individuals. Some of them stopped fighting altogether. They hid in caves and abandoned buildings, too afraid to come out. Others became reckless, attacking anything that moved because they could no longer think clearly. Dr. Lisa Harper studied reports of NIGMA behavior from around the world. What she found surprised even her. "They're breaking down mentally," she told General Collins. "Without their hive mind connection, they don't know how to function as individuals. It's like cutting the strings on a puppet." Meanwhile, Jake Morrison worked with alien allies who had come to help Earth. Ships from a dozen different races now fought alongside the human fleet. The Valdari brought advanced shields that protected human vessels. The Corthex provided heavy weapons that could damage NIGMA armor. The Zephyrians used their knowledge of space navigation to set up ambushes. "For too long, the NIGMA Empire has bullied smaller races," said Commander Veltar of the Valdari fleet. "Today we stand together to show them that tyranny has limits." As the third week of the war began, it was clear that the NIGMA invasion had completely failed. Their fleet was trapped in Earth's solar system, cut off from reinforcements and running out of supplies. Their ground forces were either captured or hiding in fear, but Hive Commander Zexthol was not ready to surrender. In his command room, he stood before a weapon that could destroy entire planets. "If we cannot have Earth," he said to his remaining officers, "then no one will." Hive Commander Zexthol stood before the planet-killer weapon in his command ship. The device was as big as a house and glowed with deadly red energy. It had the power to crack Earth in half and turn it into floating rocks in space. "Charging. Sequence initiated," reported his weapons officer. "The planet killer will be ready to fire in 10 minutes. But Zexthol did not know that Dr. Alex Chen had been listening to every word. 3 weeks earlier, when the first NIGMA ships crashed on Earth, Alex had studied their communication systems. He had learned how to tap into their radio signals without them knowing. Now he could hear everything they said on their command ship. "General Collins," Alex spoke urgently into his radio from his underground lab. "They're preparing to destroy the entire planet. We have 10 minutes. General Pete Collins felt his blood turn cold. He had expected the NIGMA to try something desperate, but destroying Earth would kill everyone on both sides. It was madness. "Tony, Kate, everyone," Pete spoke to all his commanders at once. "Emergency code red. The NIGMA are going to blow up the planet. We need to stop that ship now. In space, Admiral Kate Sullivan was already moving her fleet toward the NIGMA command ship. But the massive vessel was protected by dozens of smaller ships and energy shields that could stop any normal attack. We can't get through their defenses in time, Kate told her officers. We need a miracle. That was when Captain Tony Blake had an idea. Admiral, what if we don't try to fight through their defenses? What if we go around them? Tony had been studying the NIGMA ships for weeks. He had noticed something that the aliens had not thought about. Their ships were so big that they created blind spots where their own sensors could not see. I can fly a small team directly under their command ship, Tony explained. If we approach from below and stay close to their hull, their weapons can't turn far enough to hit us. It was a crazy plan. One mistake would mean death, but it was the only chance they had. Do it, Kate ordered. Tony gathered his best pilots, Captain Sarah Kim, Lieutenant Mike Davis, and Sergeant Jennifer Hayes. They climbed into the fastest, smallest ships humanity had built. Remember, Tony told his team as they prepared to launch, we're not trying to destroy their ship. We just need to get inside and stop that weapon. The 4 human ships raced through space toward the massive NIGMA command vessel. Behind them, Kate's fleet attacked the enemy defenses to keep them busy and distracted. On Earth, Maria Santos led every human fighter she could find in a final assault on the remaining NIGMA ground forces. They had to keep the aliens too busy to help their ship in space. This is it, people, Maria told her fighters. Everything we've worked for comes down to the next few minutes. Make every shot count. Cities around the world erupted in battle as humans attacked every NIGMA position. At once, in London, Sergeant Jim Parker led his team through the subway tunnels for one last strike. In Tokyo, engineer Kenji Nakamura activated every hidden weapon in the city. In Brazil, Captain Roberto Silva's monkeys carried explosives to NIGMA vehicles for the final time. In space, Tony's small team reached the underside of the NIGMA command ship. The vessel was so huge that its metal hull stretched out like a gray landscape in all directions. There, Sarah Kim pointed to a small opening in the ship's armor. That looks like a maintenance hatch. They flew their ships into the opening and found themselves inside the enemy vessel. The corridors were built for creatures much larger than humans, so the team had plenty of room to move. 6 minutes until they fire the planet killer. Dr. Alex Chen's voice came through their radios. You need to hurry. Tony led his team through the ship's corridors, following the directions that Alex provided by hacking into the ship's computer system. They ran past surprised NIGMA crew members who were too shocked to react quickly. They reached the weapon control room just as Zexthal was giving the final firing order. Stop, Tony shouted as he burst through the door. Zexthal turned around, his 4 red eyes blazing with fury. Impossible, humans cannot be here. You're right about one thing, Tony said, raising his weapon. This is impossible. But humans do impossible things every day. Sarah Kim and her team spread out around the room, covering the NIGMA crew members. Mike Davis ran to the weapon controls and began shutting down the planet killer with instructions from Dr. Chen. You have lost, Zexthal said to Tony. Even if you stop this weapon, more NIGMA fleets will come. The Empire is vast and powerful. No, said a new voice from the doorway. It was Jake Morrison, who had just arrived on a Valdari ship with representatives from dozens of alien races. The Empire is finished. Jake walked into the room with Commander Veltar of the Valdari and several other alien leaders. While you were trying to destroy Earth, the rest of the galaxy was watching. They saw how you treated a planet that asked for peace. They saw how you tried to commit genocide when you started losing a fair fight. Commander Veltar stepped forward. The Galactic Council has voted. The NIGMA Empire is dissolved. Your remaining worlds will be placed under the protection of other races until your people can learn to live in peace. Zexthal's red eyes dimmed. This cannot be. The NIGMA have ruled for 1,000 years. And now your rule is over. Jake said, you came to Earth expecting to find weak prey. Instead, you found humans. We warned you what would happen, but you chose arrogance over wisdom. Dr. Lisa Harper's voice came through the radio from Earth. The planet killer has been completely disabled. All NIGMA ground forces have surrendered. The war is over. In the days that followed, the galaxy watched in amazement as Earth dealt with its defeated enemies. Instead of seeking revenge, humans treated their NIGMA prisoners with fairness and respect. They provided medical care to wounded aliens and returned captured soldiers to their families. This surprised everyone, especially the NIGMA themselves. They had expected humans to be as cruel in victory as the Empire had been. "Why do you help us?" asked a wounded NIGMA soldier to Dr. Karen White as she treated his injuries. "Because that's what humans do," Karen replied. "We fight when we have to, but we don't enjoy causing pain. We want to build a better galaxy, not destroy it." The Galactic Council met again on Kepler Prime Station, but this time the atmosphere was very different. Jake Morrison stood at the speaker's platform, but now he wore the uniform of the Terran Federation, humanity's new government for dealing with other worlds. "Members of the Council," Jake began. "3 months ago I stood here and warned the NIGMA Empire about the consequences of attacking Earth. They chose to ignore that warning. Today we all see the results." He looked around the chamber at representatives from hundreds of alien races. "But humans did not fight this war for revenge or conquest. We fought it to protect our home and our way of life. Now we want to help build a galaxy where no race has to live in fear of bullies and tyrants." The applause that followed lasted for several minutes. When it finally stopped, Jake continued. "The Terran Federation offers membership to any race that believes in freedom, cooperation, and peaceful progress. Together, we can create something better than any empire." In the months that followed, dozens of alien races joined the Terran Federation. Even some former NIGMA worlds asked to be included after their people learned about democracy and individual rights. Earth became the center of a new kind of galactic civilization, one based on diversity and cooperation instead of conquest and control. Humans shared their technologies and ideas freely, while learning from the knowledge and cultures of their alien partners. Dr. Alex Chen worked with alien scientists to develop new medicines and technologies. Captain Maria Santos trained security forces for peaceful worlds that had never needed to defend themselves. General Pete Collins helped create a Federation fleet that protected smaller races from any future threats. And Jake Morrison continued his work as Earth's chief ambassador, but now he spoke for a Federation that included billions of beings from hundreds of worlds. The NIGMA Empire was gone forever, destroyed not by superior weapons or larger armies, but by their own arrogance and inability to understand that strength comes from unity, not domination. As Jake had warned them, they had learned the hard way why Earth was still free after billions of years, and why no one who tried to conquer humanity had ever succeeded. The galaxy was finally at peace, and it was a peace built on the simple human idea that all intelligent beings deserved freedom, respect, and the chance to live their own lives. The NIGMA had come to destroy one world and ended up creating a better universe for everyone.